If Israel was eating babies, the U.S. would support it. Exactly what kind of crime could Israel possibly do that would be horrendous enough to shake the U.S.'s unconditional support for them? What would they have to do? I thought a long time about this. It took me a long time because I couldn't imagine anything worse than the things that Israel actually does and has done. Then I had an idea. Maybe eating babies. It's about all that's left in terms of lines to cross for Israel to see if the U.S. would ignore it or even apologize for it. Hell, Joe Biden would probably offer up his grandkids. Of course, no one in Israel is actually eating live babies yet, or advocating such a thing. But that's the kind of extreme thing that one would have to come up with in order to surpass all the very real crimes Israel has done and is doing. Israel is so bad that practically anything you could imagine would still sound possible because they are already so twisted. I mean, how do you top poisoning unborn children with depleted uranium, or murdering the ethnically unwanted by radiation and telling them that it's for ringworm treatment? Radiation is a form of torture, radiation poisoning. It's a slow and agonizing death. Israel turns newborn babies into freak shows, something I can't show you on YouTube because they'll censor the video, but just type in depleted uranium babies into Google and click on images. But be prepared. Israel also has no problem putting a bomb or a bullet through a child. They have no problem starving people. They have no problem dumping chemical weapons on people or cluster bombs. They can shoot civilians at will, demolish homes, set up racial colonies. None of that seems to matter. So they can steal and murder with impunity, and that doesn't shake U.S. support. One could argue that killing indiscriminately infants and unborn children with radiation poisoning is actually worse, or at least equivalent to eating a baby. At least it's possible, after all, that an animal could kill a baby and eat it. But only a human could purposely cause birth defects from radioactive poison, which ultimately kills the baby for nothing. One thing you can count on, though, is that Joe Biden would stand behind either case, so long as it was Israel doing the killing. What else could be worse? Starvation? Well, that's not a problem. That's the whole point of Israel's blockade on Gaza. Something they're willing to murder people to protect. Murdering infants is not a problem. Israel does that all the time. In fact, they'll delay an ambulance at checkpoints and kill the child or the mother. Not a problem for them. Torture? That's something Israel does all the time. Organ harvesting? Check. Children's prison with sexual abuse scandals? They got that. Theft and genocide, chemical weapons, cluster bombs, MK-77? Check, 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 and check. Shooting up schools and hospitals? Check. In fact, you can one-up that and say they just blow them up entirely. They've also blown up cities. Let's see what else. Brainwashing kids to sign bombs, that's not a problem. Murdering humanitarian aid workers, they'll do that. Not only will they do that, but they'll blame the victims. And they'll claim defense. You see, in Israel's twisted world, bringing food to starving people is terrorism. And yet murdering people trapped on a boat and kidnapping the rest of them, confiscating their cameras and holding them in jail, and forcing them to sign papers saying that they can't sue, and beating the crap out of several others after they've been handcuffed and arrested is defense. Yeah, that's all defense. But bringing food is terrorism. And they said all this with a straight face after they were caught faking audio and photographs of the event, and even falsely trying to link them to Al-Qaeda. Which reminds me of the U.S. in the Strait of Hormuz incident, where they faked audio and tried to blame Iran for terrorism. And after all of this, Israel tries to act like they did nothing wrong and they don't have any guilt or worry about what they've done. Of course, Israel's been caught faking Al-Qaeda in the past, faking Al-Qaeda attacks, setting up fake cells. They also got caught blowing up one of their own buses and blamed that on Hamas and got caught doing that. They hijacked their own airlines and blamed the PLO when they had nothing to do with it. They've bombed a U.S. ship and tried to blame Egypt for that. And when that didn't pan out, they admitted that they bombed the ship, but they then changed it to say we didn't know it was American, we thought it was an Egyptian boat. And this is And they also shot up the life rafts. I mean, it was clearly an American boat. And Johnson was in on it. They had blackmail on him for the whole JFK thing. They bombed targets in Egypt, Western targets, and they tried to blame that on the Egyptians. It ended up being Israel itself. And so it's routine for Israel to do things, to lie, to use deception, to steal passports and assassinate people, to set up fake Al-Qaeda rings, to bomb themselves and blame someone else, to bomb someone else and blame someone else, to set up their political rivals. This is what Israel does. They create incidents. They were involved in 9/11. They were involved in 7/7. They were involved in the USS Liberty, Operation Susanna, the Levant affair, and countless operations in Lebanon and Palestine. That is how Israel works. We're talking about a country that wants amnesty for a spy and throws a whistleblower in jail who revealed to the world that Israel made nuclear weapons, secretly and illegally, with technology that it got from spying on the United States. They routinely spy in the United States without consequence. They have the largest lobby. They know they can get away with anything because the U.S. is their bitch and vetoes every UN resolution against them, and the ones that do get through are just ignored.
The U.S. has vetoed resolutions many times that would have put a stop to Israel's actions in the territory.
In New York, a push by the Palestinians and their supporters to win a UN Security Council resolution calling for an end to the violence was vetoed by the United States.
They are definitely willing to sacrifice their own people for that. And they're more than willing to sacrifice Americans. So exactly what kind of exaggeration could you say that Israel could compare to the things they've really done? You can't even make things up worse than what they really do. Israel is hell on earth. They've created a massive outdoor prison. You're talking about millions of refugees, tens of thousands of people who have been murdered. They set up checkpoints. They demolish houses. They shoot children. They poison babies. They assassinate people. They drop cluster bombs on civilians. They murder people at will. They torture people in their jails. They harvest people's organs. They've been caught in sex slavery traffic, child slavery traffic, and child sex slavery traffic. Their prime minister is up for war crimes. Their former defense minister is on trial for war crimes, not even allowed in several countries around the world. They're ethnically cleansing their neighbors. They've got a 40-year-long occupation. And what's the U.S. do? We send them money every day. $10 million. Screw U.S. support for Israel and have a nice day. What's next? Preemptive rape? You can bet the U.S. would be right there behind Israel saying she was asking for it.